Right. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Alderney Wildlife Trust tree identification video for Wildlife Week. Today, our resident tree expert Lindsay is going to introduce you to some of our more common tree species here in the community woodland. Over to you, Lindsay.
Right, this is a hazel tree. It's easily recognisable because it has very many stems. They're all coming out from the base. The leaves are simple, oval to round. They have double-teethed edges. In the spring they have lovely catkins, but sadly I've never seen a hazelnut here. I believe that it's because we're too close to the sea and they don't develop properly. Hazel's often coppiced and it can live to nearly 100 years if that's the case. Coppicing is often a woodland management tool. The wood can be used for peace stakes and bean stakes. Hazel is also very good for many caterpillars and other insects. This is a birch tree. It has simple leaves, but as you can see they're finely toothed all around the edges and the teeth are not all the same size. The bark, this is a silver birch, and you can see here the silver coloured bark and the diamond markings, which as the tree gets older become more obvious. This tree still has a few catkins. You see them here. We have both downy and silver birch in the woodland. They're quite difficult to tell apart. The leaf stalks of the downy birch are slightly hairy, whereas the ones on the silver birch are smooth. But apparently both the two trees can hybridise, which makes it really difficult. Right, this common, very prickly shrub is Blackthorn. It's in flower usually as early as February, and therefore it's a very good source of nectar for insects at that time of year. It flowers before the leaves come out, so that's one of the differences between it and Hawthorn, which is sometimes confused. The leaves are simple, small, and fruit are berries. They're just coming out now, still green, but they'll soon ripen and become black later in the summer, and these are the sloes. They're used for sloe gin, sloe wine and other culinary delights. The wood can be made into walking sticks. That was quite a common use for it in the past. Right, now this is a tree that you'll know. This is the hawthorn, and it's also called May tree because it flowers in May. The leaves are actually simple, but they're very deeply lobed. They've got 5 lobes cut right down nearly to the midrib of it. The flowers are 5 petals and they can be white or pinkish. The tree has quite a gnarled bark. It can grow as a small shrub or a small tree, and it's very pretty and attracts many insects. This is a tree you'll all know. It's the English or pedunculate oak. We have planted more oak than any other tree in the woodland, and that's because of all the native trees in Britain. It hosts the most number of insects and other wildlife. The leaves are distinctive. They're very short leaf stalks and they're low. They're simple leaves, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 4 to 5 pairs of lobes. As you know, the fruit of an oak tree is the acorn, but the trees here are not mature enough yet to produce them. Sometimes they need to be about 50 plus years in order to have acorns. However, you will often see oak apples, which are little round brown balls growing on the tree. These are formed by chemicals injected by the larva of the gall wasp. They're not harmful for the tree, but they're quite spectacular. Okay, this is one you may not know so well. It's field maple. Field maples are only British native maple. It's not actually, as far as we know, native to Alderney. It is in Guernsey. We don't know why it's not here. It's the same genus as Sycamore, but it's smaller. The leaves are more rounded. Has 5 deep lobes and quite reddish stems. The fruits are dispersed by wind, but we cannot see them this time of year. This is sycamore. You'll see it everywhere. It's non-native, but it's probably been here possibly even since the Roman times. So it's in the same genus as field maple, but the leaves are much bigger, but they're still sort of hand-shaped, called palmates. The flowers are in long spikes. You can see they're nearly over, yellow-green spikes, and they'll develop into sycamore keys, which will then be dispersed either by wind or by birds. It produces a sticky sap, which are very attractive to aphids and to the predators that feed on them, such as ladybirds. So it's quite a good tree. It's also used for turning, and our greenwood area here was used to produce various implements such as dibbers and other tools. This shrub is Gelder Rose. It has simple leaves, but they do look a bit like those of the maple. However, they're slightly hairier and the edges are serrated. You can see the 3 lobes here. The flowers are in flat umbels. Smaller flowers in the centre. The larger flowers around the outside are actually sterile and they have bigger petals. This one is common ash. It's easily recognisable even in the winter by its grey bark and the black buds, which look a little bit like tips of arrows. It has a compound leaf. It's called pinnate, feathery, and the leaflets are arranged in pairs opposite up the stem, and then there's a terminal leaflet at the end. Later in the year you'll get ash keys, which are the fruit and which will then be dispersed by wind. Originally we were going to have an oak ash woodland, but unfortunately due to ash dieback we've not been able to continue with that, and sadly many of the trees will die over the coming years. So this one is rowan. It has pinnate compound leaves like the ash, and you can see an ash behind it. Look how similar the leaves are, except that those of the rowan have got more pairs of leaflets and they're very serrated around the edges. The flowers are white umbels, and the tree hasn't done that well here. Another name is mountain ash, and it rarely favours the northern areas of Britain, so that's probably why Alderney's too far south. This is elder. It's quite distinctive. The tree has a sort of grey, corky bark. The leaves are pinnate, a bit like those of an ash or a rowan. These are a bit folded in, but they're only 2 or 3 pairs rather than 5 or 6 or even 8 in the others. The edges are serrated. The flowers are in a flat white umbel, and as they go over and are fertilised, they'll turn into deep purple berries, elderberry. So it's good for, flowers are good for wine, as are the berries and for other cordials.
Thanks for that, Lindsay. Here in the community woodland, the Alderney Wildlife Trust strives to maintain a community of native broadleaf trees. The Alderney Wildlife Trust is a small charity, and any donation that you make goes towards projects like the community woodland.